This is March 10th, 1999, and we're interviewing Sally, born Zelta, Correa. What is your
Correa.
born name?
Zelta.
Your last name?
Francisco.
How does one spell that?
Francisco. Francisco.
Zelta Francisco.
G. I had a middle initial G.
Okay.
But everybody knows me by Sally.
Well, we'll call you Sally.
That's when I went to
From this
school, all the
moment on.
kids, yeah, they didn't know what my name was. I didn't even know myself.
Sally, would you tell me the names of your parents, the maiden name of your mother, and her date of birth, and then your father?
Oh, that's kind of hard. Rose Picanso. And I know she was born September the 19th, but I don't know the year. That I don't know.
Roughly, what might you think?
How old was your mother?
She was 73 when she died.
No. How long she been there?
Yeah, we can take the year that she
If you
passed
tell me
away.
what
and
year
her
she
age.
died, we'll be all set.
I can't remember the year. I didn't get that information, and I have it someplace.
Well, I'll just write it down later.
What is it?
You don't have to figure that out.
You think my mother's dead? No, 25 years. I lived in Tewksbury for 35. No, 20?
Maybe
20.
Maybe.
So that would be 93.
Not 25. I lived in this house for 12 years, and I wasn't...
How could I?
Summersby.
I'm at loss now. It's
Sarah,
in
No, dates are hard
1999.
to remember, though.
Huh?
Dates are hard to remember.
If we're in 1999, 93.
I'm interviewing on March 10, 1999, Sally Correa, born Zelta G. Francisco. And Sally, I'm going to ask you again your mom's name, and
Okay, Rose Picanso.
born on September 19. We're not quite sure of the date.
Right.
And your father's name?
Joseph
Joseph
Francisco.
Francisco. And his date of birth?
February the 1st. And I also don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, and he died about 72 himself. But he's been dead a long time.
Now,
The thing is, I haven't looked that up, but I know I could go to the cemetery and check it, the dates.
well, you have a while to do that, so
I
don't
can
be
do that
concerned about
for you,
it today.
yeah,
When were they married?
here in America.
When?
When? Oh, that's another thing, I don't know when.
Okay, then we won't worry about that. Were they married in Lowell?
Yes. And the church was on Gorham Street then,
The name of the church?
St. Anthony's.
Oh, same church, different address.
So they have
Yeah,
to...
different address. That's when they
They have
first
to
came
have
here.
married.
They didn't have a church. They,
How old were they when they immigrated?
16.
Both,
That much I know. Yes,
both were
16.
the same age?
Right.
So they were born on the same year.
Okay, so.
So you immigrated at 16 years from Funchal, Madeira?
No, that's my husband. No, from the Azores.
And what did your father do for a living?
Here in America.
Or what was your grandfather's method of making a living? In
Oh, they were farmers. You know, they didn't have anything.
farmers.
Yeah.
So they were fairly poor.
Yes, very poor. They didn't. It was a dirt floor.
Everything
their
you
house.
can remember then.
It was only, as far as I know, it was only one room. They lived in only one room, like, and it was very, very poor. Because I sort of remember pictures which I don't have today, that my mother and father showed me, but I don't know where they are. It's so long ago.
And what kind of a house was it?
Oh,
What was it made out of?
what would you say? I would imagine it was wood.
Wood, really? Not stone or stucco?
No. It was a very poor house. Era tudo madeira, não era? Yeah, they were all wood.
What happened to their family when they came? And if your parents were married here, did they come to America separately and alone?
Separately. The reason why I said separately because my father said when he came by boat, and it almost capsized. They almost drowned because there was a terrible storm, and it must have been a very poor boat. It mustn't have been a yacht or anything like that. So he was very much afraid. He thought they were going to die.
So they came across the ocean in a small boat? No kidding. How many people were with him?
That much, I couldn't tell you how many people were in the boat with them. There were quite a few.
And were they family members?
No.
Friends?
Maybe friends. See, what happened was, Newmarket Manufacturing, the officers or the company manager or the owners, they went to the Azores, and they recruited all these people to come to America to work at the Newmarket Manufacturing at the silk mill, okay? And my father came and my mother came. I'm not sure about my mother, whether she came by boat. I'm quite sure she came by boat. They didn't have that many planes then, and they couldn't afford it. And I don't think the Newmarket Manufacturing was paying. They probably paid for the boat to come over, because they didn't have any money.
Did she say anything about her parents' attitudes when she decided to leave?
Well, they felt they were coming to a better place, than what they had, right?
And was 16 an age?
At 16, she was very young. And she didn't have any family here. My father had an aunt and an uncle here in a boarding house, and that's where they went to live. A lot of people went to live at Hutzinger's house, That's where they lived on Union Street. They've already knocked that house down. It was a big block. That I remember. I remember going to that house. And I remember the immigrants there. I remember that much.
I want to get to this boarding house living situation. It's very important, but I need to go back to the Azores. Was it a particular town in the Azores?
Well, yes. My mother was Guadalupe. Don't ask me to spell it. Guadalupe.
Yeah.
And my father from the Fonch. Fonch, yeah. Fonch, F-O-N-T-E-S.
I can write it down. I can spell it.
Guadalupe, you know how to write Guadalupe?
Oh, that's okay. We'll do that later.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Really?
because I have to type this
Yeah.
out.
My mother used to live. Not in there. She used to live in a factory, but they came to the church was in Guadalupe too.
Okay.
This is really interesting.
Yeah.
So, how many brothers and sisters did your mother leave behind?
I know she had a sister that was a nun, and I think she had about 3 brothers.
You never met them?
No, except one day I was at the Holy Ghost Park working, because I used to be involved running the Holy Ghost feast, and somebody came to me and said, "This is your uncle. He's living in Canada." And when I saw him, he looked so much like my mother, I almost had a shock.
Interesting. How
His
old were you?
complexion. Well, I don't know. Maybe
you a
in
young
my
woman?
20s,
Oh.
very young woman, you know, maybe 18 or 19.
So, what I asked you before regarding the age of your mother, so in the Azores, 16 was considered to be still a young woman, but so they weren't saying to her then, this is the age when you would normally get married anyway, so it's time for us to let you go. They still felt protective of her.
Oh, I think they felt they knew that she was able to handle herself. You know, at 16, those the neck and the Azores, when people are 16.
Yeah, a lot of them get married when you're 16.
Yeah.
Right.
They get
Yeah.
married before
Yeah.
16. Before they used to get married at 13, even 13.
Was this was
Not
obviously
anymore.
not an arranged marriage then, your parents?
No, because she didn't even know my father until she came to this country.
So he lived with relatives and she lived in a boarding house.
He lived in the boarding house too.
Where did she go when she got here?
To this boarding house on Union Street.
I wonder how she knew it was there.
That, como é que eles sabiam que tinha aquela casa
Well,
familiar?
a lot of them. Like,
There was a lot of Portuguese, you know what I mean? They all,
yeah.
I don't know how they communicated.
They take girls, you know, just girls come along, like Carlotta and, you know,
Yeah.
came along.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe the person that went to the Azores and brought them here might have known that there was this boarding house. That's because I all went to this boarding house.
A community of
Yeah.
Portuguese.
You're right.
So from my reading, what I seem to understand is that there was a boarding house or a residence for each ethnic group. The Irish girls were in
Oh,
the
that
boarding
I
house.
don't know. I don't know about the Irish or the Greeks or the French. I don't know if they had that type of a thing.
But this boarding house was filled with Portuguese.
Only Portuguese. Only Portuguese.
I see.
They only had one room. It wasn't like a condo or an apartment or anything. It was in this one room.
And did they have community meals?
Yes.
And how did they do their washing and their...
Well, I think they did their own washing. They did their own washing. My mother did her own.
Where?
At this boarding house.
So I guess I'm trying to find out what were the washing your clothes facilities
They did it by
The tap.
hand.
in a wash tub.
Yeah, like,
Right.
I remember that. It was
Yes.
on Lawrence Street.
I remember that. Well, that's what I'm trying to find out because we have to get this right. Now, the girls in the boarding house, do you remember your mother saying that that was a place of shared responsibility? For instance, was there a cook for the boarding house?
The way I remember was my father's aunt would cook for everybody. They probably did help, you know, because they worked from 6 to 6 at the Newmarket Manufacturing. So they didn't have time to do too much.
Both your parents worked in Newmarket Manufacturing.
Yeah, and they
And
had,
that was a silk mill.
right, where they made silk material. I remember because I went to the silk mill to bring them their dinner. I used to love to go down and see it. But I can't remember how many looms they had to run. They had to run quite a few looms. If they had 20, they must have had even more. I remember she had 2 rows, 2 long rows. I remember that. I remember the Newmarket Manufacturing. That much I know. And they worked from 6 to 6 for $8 a week.
Apparently, so your parents were married when they were what age?
Well, I think they, I'm not sure, but I think they married very young. I think my mother was 17. She wasn't any older than that. They married because she met him at this boarding house.
So they both were very young.
They were
When they
both
got
very young when they got married.
And after they were married, where did they live?
They lived on Charles Street. That's where I was born.
Now, at 17 years old, I wonder how two people could afford to live in
Well, I'm going to tell you the story about them.
Good.
How,
That's perfect.
See, it was all Portuguese, right? Even at the silk mill, no one spoke any other language. It was only Portuguese. So what happened on Charles Street, they didn't have much money. My mother got pregnant. She had 3 children before I was born. 3, which they died within a month. 2 girls died within a month, and the boy was 3 months old because they didn't have enough nourishment. And, you know, it's not like now, you can't go to welfare. You can go to welfare or SSI or they didn't have that. If they did, they didn't speak the language, and they didn't have anyone they could go to because the people where they came to the house was all Portuguese too. You know what I mean?
So the community, I certainly don't mean to imply that they weren't a sharing community, but your
Oh
parents...
yeah, they were very close. But they were all Portuguese.
But were they all so poor they didn't have what I get from what you said is that
They were very
your
poor.
mom wasn't nourished enough to nourish the babies.
That's right.
So everybody was so poor she couldn't get any help with food.
Well, they worked long hours and they ate soup all week. On Sunday, maybe they had meat.
Soup, what kind of soup?
Kale soup, turnip soup. They created a lot of soups. They made fish chowder, chicken soup, funch.
Yeah, the lunch. That's like some kind of like grass.
Yeah, it looks like grass. I made some Sunday because it was
I
so cold.
like it, but
Well, let me see, there's a big question in my mind. When your mother was pregnant, she was still working, I guess. So
Oh,
she
they worked.
until she gave birth. So she was just really a tired lady. And so, did she take her nursing baby to work with her?
No, this aunt would babysit. This aunt where they lived, she would babysit for her. Well, I don't think she went to work within a month. I don't know. That much I don't know, but I remember my mother telling me that her babies died within a month. The girls all died within a month, and the boy was 3 months old.
Heartbreaking.
She was very, very, very upset. So when I was born, she left me with this aunt on Union Street, which the house where she came to. She used to tell my aunt, well, it was my great aunt, that if I should get sick, not to wait to call the doctor right away because, you know, at that time I guess she had a little bit more, you know. Now she had a friend. She told me that she had this friend that had a lot of milk, so this woman would be nourishing me.
So you had a wet nurse?
Right, because she didn't have enough. A Theodosina, she didn't have enough. So I survived.
The other babies weren't that lucky, or they were so frail that the wet nurse wouldn't have helped? They were frail. In terms of a physician, who was that?
It was Dr. Cunha. My mother used to talk about him a lot. She had a midwife, and then he would come in and examine her. And
Is he a Portuguese person?
yeah, he was.
How do you spell his name?
C-U-N-H-A.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, same with her.
Is it a relative of yours?
No.
no.
Oh. And was he an old man or a young man? And how
He
did
was, I sort of remember him when my sister was born. I remember when my sister was born. And I sort of remember him. He was a middle-aged man already, maybe 60.
But you remember his having been in the community for a long time?
Yes.
Is he the only one?
Yes. He was the only one that spoke the language and helped them. Well, there were others after, like Dr. Lodge came after, but she was already, I was already grown up.
You were born at home, and how many siblings were born after you?
My sister, 5 years later.
At home too?
Yes. And I remember that. It was on Lawrence Street. We had moved from Charles to Lawrence Street. And I remember sitting with my cousin next to the bedroom, and I could remember my mother crying. I can remember that as if it was today. I remember my sister being born.
But she had a midwife
Yes. Then the doctor came.
later.
And this doctor would never put our names down at City Hall.
Why?
I don't know. He was just had too much to do, or lazy, or I don't know why. The reason why we didn't. Neither my sister or I had names down there. There was a daughter born June the 29th, 1921, to Mr. and Mrs. Francisco.
Oh, but not names.
Not names.
He didn't bother with the particulars.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Well, see, I think in those days the godmother would be the one that would name the child. That's what it was.
So you weren't
yeah.
even named on the day that he made the register?
That's right.
That
That's what
would
it
be
was.
like 6
Yeah.
weeks later?
Until I was christened, I didn't have a name.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't bother to bring the name down because they didn't know any better, you know?
Now, did your mother always work in your memory?
Yes. Worked
So-
till she was 65.
And so you had this extended family that did the babysitting in this community. Everyone seems to say the same thing.
Yes.
Did anybody ever stay at home in those days?
I don't remember anybody staying at home. They all had to work.
And so when a person got to be a certain age, they became a built-in babysitter. That's what the extended family method is.
Yeah. The aunt was quite elderly, so she babysat. But as I grow older, my mother put my sister and I, after my aunt died, in that old Larry's home, back Central Street. It was run by these elderly ladies, and that's where I would stay.
So daycare,
Yeah.
in a
And
sense.
the daycare thing. She already lived on Lawrence Street. She had more money, I guess. But I want to tell you how they lived on Lawrence Street. At this home, they were very good to us. There wasn't any religion, but they would send us to this church on Church Street. I don't remember the name of it, but it's still there. It's not a Catholic church. And these women would send us there, and we used to do crafts. little
In the
things like that.
daytime?
In the daytime.
Really?
Right,
So an after-school activity program.
right.
Um,
Or school vacation. You know what I mean? They had to work. Both of them worked at this silk mill. I don't remember my mother working any other place.
Did you live at home, did you go home at night at 6 o'clock, or did you stay with these ladies all week,
No, we stayed all week, and my mother would pick us up.
on the weekend?
Oh, no, we didn't stay overnight.
No, that's my question.
No, we didn't stay overnight. No,
She
we'd
picked
come
you
home.
up at night. And then you had to have supper. Now,
She'd have to come home and cook.
was there any means of keeping anything overnight? For instance, if you ate soup on Tuesday, did you
No, we
also...
only had an ice box.
So you did not eat the same soup on Wednesday? Every day she had to start from scratch? So even though you were little people, sometimes you were eating supper at 7 or 8 o'clock.
Well, yes, but we'd have, I sort of remember having lunch at this state.
But you still ate supper with your parents?
Right.
And your bedtime was what?
Was early.
earlier, but it couldn't have been much earlier than 8 or 9.
That much, I don't remember going to bed. We never went out at night.
If your mom had to be to work at 6 in the morning, you must have had to get up around 4:30 every day and be transported to your daycare center.
See, I know I'm forgetting how that all happened. Well, what happened was, my mother had a brother that brought 2 girls to this country, and my mother took care of them. They were 16 too. See, so they were at home.
They stayed with you part of the time? Oh, I see. Sort of a nanny. Okay.
Yeah, I know they lived with my mother on Lawrence Street, and that's where I was born on Charles Street, and I was only about 5 months old when they went to Lawrence Street to live. And I want to tell you how they lived. My father used to have a garden. He was very good at, that's where we got all our vegetables. They never had to go out and buy anything. My mother would make the bread weekends. Okay? And they also raised livestock. And we had a wood stove. And my father would get all the wood from the river. We lived next to the Concord River. We had a lot of land. My mother had a 2-apartment house. She rented one, and she lived in the other.
How old were you then?
5 months old.
So when they moved, they did pretty well. They bought a 2-family house.
Yeah, but they only paid $2,000 for the house. And that time, I guess they had a person that would lend them the money, and they paid him so much. And the only way they could have this house was by having somebody lend them the money. And they were able to save a little. With the little they got, they saved, because my father was able to, get all the vegetables and the livestock and the wood to burn. And in those days, they used to kill pigs. And I remember that. They used to salt them and put them away. They didn't have refrigeration.
And she made her own sausage?
Yes, they were very good. As a group, her friends all would get together. I remember this. And my mother had like a kitchen downstairs in the basement. So not to dirty, that's the way it was. Not to dirty the upstairs. They do all their dirty work downstairs in the kitchen. And she had a group of ladies, of her friends. They helped one another. If you killed a pig this week, next month somebody else would, and she'd go and help them. That's the way it was. They'd make their sausages and suppathal and
what is that?
a blood pudding. It's a
Masala,
blood pudding. Yeah, masala is something you put in a casing. But suppathal was another pudding that they. I remember them putting lemon on top. Oh, I don't know. And then they cut the pig in pieces, and they'd marinate part of it, and the other part they would make their lard. They never bought anything. They never bought anything. If they bought, once in a while they'd buy sweets. I remember going to the bakery.
Yeah, but they were so cheap that time.
Yeah.
We can buy a box of $6 for 10 cents.
I know it. It's very, very cheap.
When I came in.
I can't imagine how cheap, because I can remember when bread cost 5 cents. So you
5
must
cents,
have paid
yeah.
very little.
She baked. She made bread at that time. But then as years went by, we'd buy the bread. Yeah. When they start to make a little bit more money.
So it was a community
It was
all
a
about everything.
Yes. It was a community, and then they joined the Holy Ghost. And their entertainment would be to go to the Holy Ghost Park on weekends, maybe bring their lunch or bring food, and they would cook it up there, and you know what I mean, and that was their entertainment. Weekends for them. But everybody was Portuguese. They didn't speak any other language, you know what I mean? At the mill, it was all Portuguese. All the people there were Portuguese.
Were the supervisors Portuguese?
No, I don't know how they understood them.
That's my question. Your parents never learned to speak English?
No, but at the years went by, I would teach her how to write her name, and I think she understood a little bit. But we always spoke Portuguese at home, you know what I mean? We'd go to school, but we'd come back and speak Portuguese.
When you went to an American school, which was from the beginning,
Yeah, Ames Street School, right across the street from my house, and the Colburn School, and the Butler School, and the high school.
you entered school speaking only Portuguese.
Right.
Was the classroom filled with Portuguese, or were there other ethnic groups?
Well, there were some other children. I don't remember for sure, but I know there were a lot of Portuguese kids.
And how did that teacher help you to learn English? If neither of you spoke the other?
I don't know. She was able to teach us, and it was only one teacher. I remember her, as if it was today, Miss Sullivan. She made out okay with the Portuguese. She taught us, and then playing with the other kids, you know, you learn.
Would you have rathered that you learned your lessons in Portuguese, or are you glad that you learned it in English?
I'm glad I learned it in English.
So the multi...
Well, because I speak Portuguese even now. I interpret for the immigrants at a clinic every week. That's because I learned with them. But our Portuguese, my parents' Portuguese, which they didn't have any school, and the Portuguese from other countries now, it's altogether different. Like, I remember my husband, his Portuguese was different than ours because he was there 10 years and he went to school in Funchal, Madeira. But my parents never went. They spoke to the same group of people from the Azores, and everybody spoke the same language because they didn't have school. You know, I mean, they didn't have, how do I want to say it? They didn't have the long words and
it wasn't formal language.
right.
It was excellent. So how do you feel about bilingual education then, now, today?
Well, I'm not for it at all.
Now, I'm wondering if it has anything to do with numbers. Because I recall having a few immigrant children when I went to school. It did not seem to be a problem for them. But I wonder if part of the problem, part of the need for bilingualism is because there are just so many hundreds of new children that that if you were in a school that had all Portuguese children and no American, no on-the-spot American children, you didn't have anyone to keep up with. Is that true? So everybody in the first grade was learning English for the first time.
Yeah, but I think there were other kids too. Now I remember, because I remember there was a colored family on Lawrence Street, and they weren't Portuguese, and there had to be other kids there.
I'm just
So
wondering,
living in that neighborhood, because it wasn't all Portuguese in the neighborhood that we were at, so there must have been other kids there that weren't Portuguese. We learned with them.
I'm wondering, in the older grades,
There were more people that spoke English. We did. We already knew the language.
I do think everyone now is trying to figure out what the differences are, and I think the differences are that if you come to this country when you're 13, and everybody else in the 8th grade is speaking very good English and taking their tests in English, and you can't even say ABC, it must be very, very
But
difficult.
I think now in the Azores, they have schools where the kids go to school now, don't they? The kids go, now it's different than it was the time that my mother came.
Okay, now, do you remember any problems with other ethnic groups? Any fear that you had, or any dissension, or any trouble, any racism, or
Well, I don't remember anything like that, but my husband remembers that the French people lived down in Tremont where he lived. The Tremont people, the French people didn't care for the Portuguese. And I think...
And the Greeks.
And the Greeks. You know, they were one group, the French was another group, the Portuguese was another group, and they didn't mix in together too well.
And if you go to one to the other, there'll be a fight. If you go from Portugal to the Irish or like that, there'll be fights. You have to be your own group.
so I guess you didn't consider it to be a gang,
No.
but it was an ethnic, a sort of territorial.
Yeah, right. It was territorial. You know, the Irish on Lawrence Street, they stayed together. They were very good to us. We had Irish people on both sides and across the street. They were very good to us. Polish people down the street. It's not like it is today. Today, Lawrence Street is mostly all Portuguese. In those days, it wasn't. We were the only Portuguese family.
I see.
And they liked us. The Irish people next door, they were the Brady's, they were very nice to us. The Lowneys across the street.
So, well, Emmanuel, when it's your turn, then I'm going to ask you about that, but you don't have any problems in your memory?
No.
You were not fearful to walk anywhere?
No, we could walk at night. My mother would send me up to the bakery at night. Never had any problem.
No.
It was only up the street and she'd be at the front door.
What might you have considered dangerous in those days?
I don't feel any danger in those days like I do today.
And your mother and father?
Yeah.
They didn't feel danger?
No.
Did people lock their doors? Did they have any sense of...
Well, we never locked the front door. I remember the men would all get together in the corner of the street, and they'd all get in the group and talk. That was their entertainment at night.
Was that all one ethnic group?
Yes, all Portuguese. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Did your father belong to the Portuguese club? What is that?
He belonged to the Holy Ghost. He belonged to the Pioneer Club. That club, he was a member for years. He even used to cook there for them. Yeah.
But your mother and father's entertainment was mostly
At the Holy Ghost.
picnics, and that was it.
They didn't have a car. Years later, we got a radio. We never had TV. We never went to a movie until I got married.
Was there a movie there?
Yes, there was the Strand and the Rialto. What was the other one, Nano? The Strand. Oh, the Strand, the Rialto, and the other one.
The other one was the downtown.
Yeah, downtown. What was the name of that one?
What's the name?
The Warrior.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't remember the other one. There were 3 movies, and there were nice theaters.
Were you were forbidden to go? Is that it?
No, well, my mother never let us out
At night.
No, yeah, never went to a movie. Well, they didn't have money anyway, so they never went themselves. So they weren't accustomed to take us to a movie. Huh? No, the Rialto. It's the one downtown where Gomes is right now. Keith.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Keith Theater. Yeah.
And then we also used to go for prizes and everything, you know?
The first time I went to a movie was with a friend of my mother's. I was 16 years old to see Shirley Temple. You know, at Christmas we never had anything, okay? And I remember writing to Santa Claus in Boston, and he sent me, I don't know, a great big box of toys and a great big doll. When he came to our door and he knocked at the door and I opened the door and I saw that great big box, I was so happy. We never had anything.
Where do you think that came from?
From Boston. I wrote to the Boston Post. Somebody told me to write to Boston Post. And I was only a young
Virginia,
kid.
there was a Santa Claus. They had a Globe Santa then. I wonder when the Globe Santa started.
Yeah, I remember when he started. I remember it was Boston, but I can't remember the exact address or anything, and it's been so long ago.
Wouldn't it be great to have that letter?
Yeah.
That's a
And,
nice
and you know,
memory
that
for
letter must have been written by me, and my English wasn't that great either.
And you say you were, how old at the time?
I think I was only 7. I'm telling you, we never had toys. Whatever money they made was for clothes. My mother made her own clothes, and our clothes.
Well, these are good. Okay. So, pretty much, have you told me what happened to your girlfriends? How did you meet your girlfriends?
Well, my girlfriends were the women that worked together as a group, cooking and helping one another and going to the Holy Ghost. They had children.
Mm-hmm.
They were cousins. Everybody used to call everybody a cousin, you know. That's how we had friends. We would never go out with a friend. We never did. I never did. I never was able to go out.
And you went to high school.
Right, and then I married my husband.
But did you graduate from high school?
No, I didn't. I went to work to help out.
You went through what grade?
To the 10th, I think it was.
Is that common, was that common in the neighborhood that your friends did not finish high school?
Yeah, they used to only go to 16. They only went to the 16th grade. They only went to the age of 16, and then they'd go to work.
As soon as you could get a work permit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was lucky enough, the job I had, I went to different colleges to get, yeah. I'll tell you about myself later.
Yeah, I'm just watching here because I know it's going to stop in a minute. This is good work sound.
I told you we ate soup all week and had meat only once a week. And I didn't tell you when I used to go to Sunday school. We were involved with the church a lot. And the priest that we had, you know, he used to teach us a lot. And we had shows.
The
You know,
priest.
put, yeah,
Say
the
that
priest.
sentence again, Sally. Say that sentence again about the priest.
The priest at St. Anthony's, he was very good to the children. He would teach us to have plays and to sing, and of course religion too, but he was mostly teaching us to be involved with other children, and he'd put on plays to make money for the church with the children. He was very good that way.
And what was his name?
Father Olivera.
Wasn't it Father Olivera?
Yeah, Father Olivera.
And were those a mixed group of boys and girls?
Right, boys and girls.
And how old were you?
Well, we were very young, maybe 8, 9, 10.
Did you continue to go to church?
Yes.
In Sunday school?
Sunday school, I sang in the choir. I was a Sunday school teacher. I made my confirmation. We went to Bible history
When
there.
did Sunday school end? And in other words, when did you cease to be a child in the church?
When I got married.
Okay, you went to Sunday school until you got married.
Right.
Oh.
I sang in a choir.
Mm-hmm.
And I did little odd jobs in the summer for the priest. We'd have an outing out in the back of the church, and I would sell sandwiches and soda, little things like that.
Did your friends help you do that?
Yes. Other younger people did that too.
Now, was it that it was on your 16th birthday? So, because your birthday was in June, you could finish whatever grade that was, just as you were turning 16.
Yeah, but I continued being involved with the church, even
But
after
as
getting
far as
married.
school was concerned.
As far as school is
On
concerned.
your
Once I
16th.
was confirmed, then we went for Bible history.
So tell me where you went to work when you were 16 then. And tell me about getting your work papers.
I don't remember how I got my work papers. I guess I went to the city hall. I worked at the New Market because my mother was working there, so I was working in the clock room. Okay.
And what did
Very, very short time.
Tell me about that job.
I used to inspect the material, that the weavers made, the silk material. It would run on a machine, on a roller, and I would inspect it. And I would write whether it was okay or not, Then what happened, I left, and I went to work for the Warner Lancet in the office.
How did
See,
you
my
get an office
penmanship,
job?
well, they liked my penmanship, so they asked me if I wouldn't go work in the office, writing up orders, okay?
So if people wanted to improve themselves, they
They
could.
could. Oh, yeah, I did improve myself.
Your mom, I forgot to ask you what you remember your mother saying and your father about the conditions of working in the mill and the types of persons who were their supervisors.
Well, I guess the supervisors were okay, but they had loom fixers, that fixed the machines. They were Portuguese, so they were able to talk to them. They most leaned on them, because they were Portuguese and they could ask them different questions, I guess.
Well, how about the health conditions and the salary and those things? Were your parents present at any of the labor movements?
No, nothing like that. Nothing. No. See, they go way back.
Do they recall, or do you recall their saying that the supervisors were hard on them? Or was it the kind of situation where if they just did their job, they got paid and that was it?
Well, I think if they made mistakes in the material, they would get called down, they'd call them down. They would, I think I remember my mother saying that, being upset because the machine didn't go right and the material was terrible. Something happened to the material, something happened to the machine, and the loom fixer didn't fix it right. They had problems.
used to cry a lot.
Yeah, they'd cry, yeah. Yeah, they would, because they were unable to speak to the manager or the boss. They couldn't. They would probably show him, but he wouldn't know what the heck they was talking about,
Did they lose money if they made a mistake?
I don't think so. I don't remember that, huh? No, they never lost money, But I know that when they first came, some of the people didn't get paid while they were learning to be...
Just a minute, Sally, excuse me.
Oh, yeah,
And stop.
I don't know about my mother.
Okay.
I remember my mother saying, while they learned, they didn't get paid. You know, I think it was terrible to go to a country and bring all these young people to work and then don't pay them. And they got so much in debt. They had to pay all that money back.
Well, that's what caused the labor unions
Right.
to become.
Right, that's right. And then they knew that they didn't know the language and they didn't help them at all. They just put them into work and
It sort of became slavery, didn't it?
yeah. It was.
So essentially, the mills became a slave condition.
At the beginning, yeah. Eles nessas pessoas vai.
No.
Take them a long time to try to weave, to learn that they didn't get paid at all, for weeks and weeks and months.
So the community had to support them.
I don't know how they I don't know how my mother and father survived, to tell you the truth. But once they got on their feet and my father was able to plant and then they had friends. They used to go to the Holy Ghost for a little entertainment, weekends.
Sally, I want you to tell me now a couple of things first before I ask you about your getting married. Do you think your folks were disappointed in what they found when they got here? Or did they always have the expectation that if they worked hard enough it would get better? In other words, they put the onus on themselves to make it work.
Well, I think so because they were very, very poor out there. They had nothing.
And they had no intention of returning.
My mother never returned. My mother, I used to say to my mother, I see a lot of immigrants going back. She says, I never want to go back. She says, we were so poor, I never want to go see that country again. I don't know about my father, but my father never went back either. Neither one ever went back. They didn't have the money. It's not like now. A lot of the Portuguese that came from there in later years, they make money, they take it out there, they build a house, and they keep going back and forth. Well, my parents didn't have that luck.
It was a different economy.
Right.
For sure. So you went to work in the office, and when did you meet Manuel? Was he your first date?
Well, I had other boyfriends, but, nothing serious. I never thought of getting married. I knew him, but it all started at Canopy Lake. I remember being there and him being there.
How did you get to Canopy Lake?
By bus.
And you were how old?
Oh, well, I must have been 17 or 18. Because I got married at 18.
Your mom pretty much kept you at home, but how did you get to go to Canopy Lake?
It was a plant picnic. I think it was Newmarket picnic. He worked at Newmarket too. I didn't work at Newmarket. I worked at Waterlansa.
So when you were first at Newmarket, you didn't know him then?
No. My father and mother knew him. The day I got married, my father cried all day. I don't know if he was happy. Oh, I'm happy. Oh, he cried. When he took me to church and everything. I was on the verge of crying too.
Well, he wasn't that much older than you. Only 20 years, right? So,
My husband?
your father? They started having children very young.
No, I guess so. I don't.
But the other ones were first, three
Huh?
first than you.
Yeah, the three first ones were before me. When I came, I lived. And my mother was very much afraid that, you know, it was going to happen to me too. So when she left me with my aunt, she'd say, you just call Dr. Cunha. Once she gets a cold, you call him, because I don't want her to get sick.
So you went to Kennedy Lake.
And I met Manuel. I met him, but I don't think we talked. But see, I used to walk to work and used to be at this little store, and I used to see him practically every day. And then he had other girlfriends. He had a lot of girlfriends.
Oh, come on.
That's
I was the same.
You mean your father wasn't protective of your dating people? What does
Oh, I never dated. I never went out. Are you kidding?
What does boyfriend mean? Did you have a crush on somebody?
Yeah. Oh, I never went out with him.
Who?
I never went out with him on a date.
What happened? How did you get from hi Manuel to let's get married?
He used, well, in those days they could come to the fence. They could come and talk to us outside the house on Lawrence Street. We had a fence. He'd stay on the outside and I'd stay on the inside. Courting. Yeah, that's how we courted.
So one day you had stood at the
But
fence long enough?
before all of this, I'm going to tell you a story. When I was going to the Butler School as a young kid, he'd be dating other girls. I used to see him with another girl every noontime when I'd go home. See, years ago, we used to come home at noontime for lunch. And I used to see him with this girl all the time. I never thought I was going to marry him. Well, anyway, that's how we caught it. We never went out. He never was able to take me out.
So you just...
My mother never allowed us to
So
go out.
nice.
Yeah, never.
So one day you stood at the fence long enough and decided it's time to...
Oh, well, not the first day. He came a lot of days.
I know that's what I mean.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh,
remember.
you just decided you're going to get married.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask your father.
Yeah, he did. He asked my father if he could marry me.
And you were how old?
I was 18. I was 17 and turned 18.
I'm
when I
like
got
5
married.
years old.
I got married in July the 15th. I got married July the 15th. And my birthday was June the 29th, so that's not too many days.
What year was that?
1939.
You got married on my birth, just a couple of weeks after I was born. I was 2
Yeah,
weeks
me
old
too.
when you got born.
Yeah, I was
When you got married, I was 2 weeks old.
Yeah, and I was 2 weeks. I was 17.
18 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're so 5 years older than her.
That's well, that was so common. You married somebody 4 or 5 years older.
Yeah, it was 5 years old.
Somebody prepared, with a job.
No, it wasn't a made-up marriage or anything, because he's from another island, and the Azores is another island. I'm an American. I was born in America,
I was
and
born
my
here, too.
husband
I was born
was
here.
too.
Now, so then did you both work?
Yes.
And tell me about the, now I know how you ate and I know that things were tough, but what was discipline like in your home?
Discipline. Well, we couldn't, we weren't allowed to go out. I mean, my parents were good to us. Is that what you mean?
Yes, I think it's a little bit different in this category when there's a son. The sons are a little different, but when someone has 2 daughters, what is the discipline? Just really none was necessary, I assume.
No. The only thing my father used to do was when we'd be coming home from school, we'd come with the boys and the girls as a group, from school, because we all lived in the same neighborhood. Some lived back central, but I lived on Lawrence Street. I was about the only one that lived on Lawrence Street. But we'd always leave school together and come together. He'd go and watch. He'd go and watch me.
So what happened, when I used to go to their house, his sister was watching me,
Oh, yeah. If he'd come
geez.
to the house, and after a while he was able to come in, and we'd sit in the living room, and my mother would send my sister to watch me.
Oh, geez.
what could we do in the living room and everybody at home?
So I told my sister-in-law, when you get married, I mean, you have a boyfriend, I'm going to do the same thing. We never did because my mom let him
Yeah, my sister was different. She was able to go out with her boyfriend.
Okay, I have one last question. Do you have anything you want to tell me before my last question?
About what?
You got married.
You want me to tell you about after I got married?
Well, what kind of a wedding did you have?
Oh, we went up to the Holy Ghost. We got married at St. Anthony's, and my party was at the Holy Ghost Society. I was the first person to get married at the Holy Ghost Park. And those days, there must have been 300 people. It was the old building, and I think it's in one of the books. And my mother had all kinds of sandwiches and all kinds of pies. I never saw so many pies. No cake. It was all pies. All different kinds of pies.
Who made all that food? Oh.
She bought them at the bakery. We had the girls that she brought up, her nieces, one of the men was the baker, and he made all the pies. It was only pies and beer and tonic. That was it. That was our party. 300 people. And I think that my gifts weren't money. They were, I got about 10 bedspreads and blankets. That's what I got. I'm lucky to get it. But I did have, my mother did allow for me to have a bridal,
Shower?
no, I didn't have a shower. But in those days they had a custom. The girls who were in the wedding, they came to the house to make my bed. And she bought me, I'll never forget it, she bought me this most beautiful white bedspread, satin, embroidered, different colors, not too much. The whole background was white, but just a few little flowers, and it was beautiful. She did give me a good wedding. At that time, they didn't have weddings like they have now.
And the bed was a lot of pins, too.
Yeah,
That's what they kept to make the bed.
yeah.
To put all
So we would, yeah,
a joke, like.
a joke.
The hurt you mean?
A pin so that we wouldn't get to bed.
Oh, safety pins to short sheet you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Oh.
glued the sheets together.
Tom and Pam.
And the nightgown out together. The other things.
Yeah.
A lot of
Well,
crazy
I
things.
don't remember all the things they put on the bed.
If we went there to go to bed, we had to say,
You had
Had
so
to
much.
pull everything out. We didn't know that. And when we went on our honeymoon, we had relatives from Providence, Rhode Island. They took us to Boston. We stayed at the Statler one night. The next day, we went to Hampton Beach. We stayed there 3 days, and I was ready to come home. And when I left, my father cried. I still can see my father crying a lot.
see, this is a...
First
Word.
girl,
His baby.
first baby.
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, yeah.
And our father and mother there.
And my father and my mother.
Beautiful. Yeah.
She was a very good cook.
Very nice.
Everybody loved her cooking.
She's a classy look. Look at this wonderful woman.
My mother
I'm
cooked
going to
for
ask you
years.
this one last question, and that is, how do you feel about immigration today? How do you feel about the immigration that's happening today?
Well, I've been working with the immigrants so they can become citizens. Myself and another woman, we took care of about 75 people. I talked to Maria Cunha, and we set up an appointment, and we had a gathering. I collected maybe 75 Portuguese immigrants. I told them that they had to become Americans. So they listened to me, and Maria Cunha came, and she talked to them at the Lowell Council on Aging. That's where we got the group. And we taught them all the questions, because they can take they can become citizens in Portuguese, okay? So we taught them the questions and the answers, and those who wanted to take it in the American language. There are some Portuguese immigrants that speak very good English, just quite a few. It wasn't like that in my mother's time. We worked with them for about a couple of years, and a lot of them have become citizens, so we're happy about that. But it was between myself and this other woman. We went to St. Anthony's Parish every Saturday afternoon to teach them the questions and answers. And I emphasized to them that they had to become citizens, that they wanted to be anybody here in America. So they listened to us, and a lot of them are Americans now.
Do you think that the immigrants today work as hard or care as much about being American?
I think there's a lot of them, but I did come across some that didn't want to become citizens. They didn't care. They were happy the way they were, and that was it.
Do you think that they're bringing old country here?
There is still a lot of old customs here.
I mean, do you think that they are coming here not to assimilate, but to just to live in a different place as if they were still in Portugal? In other words,
Yes.
with the same
Some of
customs.
them, some of them still carry that custom. But those that are coming here now don't go through what our parents did. Not only my parents, but other parents.
Of course. Okay, so that was good. That wasn't tough, was it?
Oh, I hope I did okay.
Oh,
Eric, my mother converted the living room for our bedroom. And after a year or so, she had me move upstairs, had the people that were living in the upstairs apartment move out, and we went upstairs. We went housekeeping, okay? After that, a while, my husband went in the service for almost 3 years, and he went overseas. And when he was in this country, I traveled to Missouri.
Excuse me, son. Where's the
I traveled to Missouri, and I had never left my house, like I told you. I didn't know the first thing about traveling, but I made up my mind that I was going to do it, and I did.
Why did you go to Missouri?
To see my husband. He was there, okay? He was there on basic training. So when I got there, I didn't know anyone. I went by train. I never left my seat, and I think it was a 2 days on the bus, on the train. It was 2 days on the train, and I never got up. And some man came to me and said, "Wouldn't you like to eat?" Evidently they were watching me, you know, because I never got up from my seat, because I was scared. I had never traveled. I says, "No, I'm not hungry." So when I got to Raleigh, first we went to Raleigh, because that's where he was going to meet me. I went to the hotel where I was supposed to be, and when I got there, they told me that he couldn't leave Fort because he had KP or something like that. And I says, "Oh my God, this is going to be real great." So I says, "Where can I eat?" Because this hotel didn't have a restaurant. He says, "You can go up the street. There's a restaurant there." It was a small town in Raleigh, Missouri. I'll never forget that. So I walked up, and I opened the door, and I saw all these soldiers there. I said, "Oh my God." I turned right around, went back to the hotel, and cried my eyes out. Well, with this, he came. So then I said, "Look, I haven't eaten for about 3 days, so let's go and eat." So we went to that restaurant where all the soldiers were. He could only be there for 1 day. He had to leave on Sunday. This was like a Saturday, and he had to leave on Sunday. So he says, but I'll make arrangements for you to go closer to the fort, to Waynesville, Missouri. So I took the bus and I went to Waynesville that week. But while I was in Raleigh, I met some people and I got friendly and I felt more relaxed. So I went to Waynesville. It was like a hole in the, it was a small little town with only the USO where I could go and a few little stores, grocery stores. So, and the room that he got for me, oh my God, there was no lock, no nothing, but I could lock it from the inside once I was in. So I used to go to the USO during the day, so I got friendly with this minister's wife, and she said to me, I've been watching you for days, and I know you're very unhappy. I says, I am, because I can't get to see him until the weekend, and I don't know what to do with myself all day. I just can't sit at the USO all day. She says, don't you worry. She says, I'll take you to the fort, and my husband is a captain, and he'll sign your pass, and I'll teach you how to get your own pass, and then you can go in every night. She was a very nice lady. So that night we went to the fort. Her husband, he was having services with some of the boys, so we sat till he got through, and he called my husband to meet us at the service club. So she said, I'll walk with you because you don't know where it is. So she walked with me. She was very nice. So she walked with me. So we had dinner that night. They're beautiful ladies. They knew how to cook good. Oh, they're good cooks. So she says, and then I'll get you a job, a volunteer job at the USO. So I started to volunteer, making copies and working in the office. And so that took up my days. And at night, I'd go and see him at night. Some nights I'd go up there and he'd be cleaning his gun. And he said, I'm too busy today. I said, you got to be kidding. And so at night, I'd come home into this small room. I'd open the door, turn the light, look under the bed, in the closet. Then I'd go in and lock the door. I stayed there for 3 months. Then I go home. I stayed there for 3 months. But I worked in the USO. So that helped. Then I come home for about a month or so. Then I went back to South Carolina. He was transferred to South Carolina. So I got a place with this principal of the high school. She had rooms. She rented a room for me. South Carolina was a lot better. Mm-hmm. So she said to me, I'll get you a job at the cafeteria. They open up twice a day for lunch and for dinner at night. And it wasn't too far from where I lived with her. She was very nice to me. So I got the job, and I used to work on desserts. I used to put the desserts up. I never had to lift a thing. They had colored people that would do all the lifting. I would just put it up on the shelf. And then I met a lot of people that lived in South Carolina that come in every single day. The ones that come in for lunch would come every day, and the ones that come in for dinner at night would be the same people. So I got to know them very well. So I was there another 3 months. I come home, and then I went back again, and then he was shipped overseas. And I worked at that same place.
You tell about that colored woman that you worked with?
Oh, yeah. Well, what happened was, colored people didn't bother me, you know, and there was this colored girl who would do all the lifting. And I would talk to her. Well, this couple, they liked me and everything, but they didn't like me talking to this colored person. They didn't want me to mingle with her at all. Oh, I said, I didn't know what to say. I mean, I got scared, you know. They didn't want me to talk to her. I had to stop talking to her.
Who is this couple you're talking about?
People from South Carolina. I don't know these people, you know what I mean?
They were just sort
They
of
were just-
strangers, but they
They
were,
were strangers to me, but friendly with me. Every night they'd speak to me, hi, how are you, what are you doing, and all this. You know, they were very good to me. They were nice. They'd speak to me. I never went to their house. I never associated with them. But they'd come in every night, like I said. Every night they'd come for dinner. They were like people that worked all day, and that's where they used to have their dinner at night. And they'd watch me talking to this girl, and they didn't like it. They called me over. We don't do that here. We don't talk to the colored people. We don't associate with the colored people. I wasn't associating. I was only talking to her. I never went out with her or anything. But she worked side by side, okay? But she said something to me. I answered her, okay? They didn't want me to do that.
Down the south they don't give it. And then when I used to go on the bus, we go downtown, if was a colored woman that's sitting down there, they tell her to get out of there, so I can't sit down. With a baby.
He'd have to get up for the soldier to sit.
and what if you didn't sit?
Oh, well, I don't know. I never, that never happened to me because I didn't ride the bus in South Carolina. The only place I rode the bus was when I was in Raleigh.
They say that the colored people there down south, they, oh.
Yeah, they didn't like them.
It was just beginning to change when we were in North Carolina.
Yeah.
You know,
It was. See, like the principal, we talked, but she never said anything to me about not to associate with anybody or not to talk to anybody. I mean, she was very good to me.
Oh, they were wonderful people. My husband was in a group in the Army, and there were 13 about where they were born.
Father was born in Madeira, what's the name of it?
Who's,
Pulumar.
Oh, Fulmar.
Yeah.
Okay. And what year was your mother born? Do you know? But and did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have one brother living, you know, I had another brother, but he passed away.
5 brothers?
No, 3 brothers, including him, and 3 girls. With 6.
6
of
children,
them.
so 3 and 3.
Yeah.
Now, you were born in America.
Right.
Did your parents ever come to America?
Oh, yeah.
They came, of course they did, because you were born
Yeah,
here.
right.
So, how, were they married in Portugal?
Yes.
Actually in the Azores.
No, Madeira.
Madeira.
Oh, Madeira.
This has nothing to do with the Azores.
They were married in Madeira. Do you know how old they were when they got married?
Well, my brother was a young girl, she must have been about 18 or something like that.
Did they work before they came here, or did they only go to school?
No, they never went to school, my father did, like not my mother.
No. Did your mother have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, she had, but I don't know their names, you know, because...
But how
like I said,
many? How many brothers and sisters?
Oh, she had two brothers and sisters.
Oh. Now, what did your grandfather do for a living? Do you know that?
I never knew my grandfather.
But your mother never told you whether he was a farmer or...
Well, those days, you know, they usually work most of the time on the farms, you know.
Mm-hmm. Farmer.
There's no work for them, you know. They usually go to the farm to work, you know.
So, if your folks got married on Madeira, what made them come here?
Well, my father, you know, heard there's a lot of Madeirans coming to the United States, so he tried to come down here to see what he could do, and he did a good job. Because he used to take care of these immigrants over here, because what happened, he used to be a policeman in Portugal, then he come back here.
He was a
A
policeman?
policeman in Portugal, yes.
Oh.
Then he come back, then when he come back, he sent for my mother. So then from there, before my mother came, he went to Africa, because, you know, he figured that he wasn't getting too much money in the United States, so he went to Africa. And so...
What did he do in Africa?
Well, he went there, you know what he did? So he was very, very slim, you know? And most of those people there that work there in a farm like that were huskies. So he wanted a job. So what he did, we used to put some clothes inside himself, and don't make it, but it was tiny, you know. And then he learned the English language, see? Because before that, he didn't know how to speak English or not. But when he went to Africa, he learned with those people, you know.
With the British.
Yeah, and he learned the English language. So after he left Africa, came to the United States, he was probably the only Portuguese that knew speak English. You know, because in those days, you know, they didn't go to schools over here. They didn't know. They came from Portugal, you know, and so they didn't know English. But so my father used to go from door to door to teach them, you know, and was ringing all that. Every time there's something going on, they used to call my father all the time. So he was. Then they never paid. Poor guy, you know, rain, snow, and all that stuff, you know. And so he liked to help the people, you know. So he did like that all the time. So then finally, what he is, he caught cold, you know. I mean, and he gets sick, you know. If he died a few years back, you know.
Well, what did he do to make a living here in America?
Oh, he used to work in a store, a clothing store, in Lowell.
Salesman.
Oh,
A salesman, yeah.
So his knowing English was very helpful in getting a job.
The immigrants.
Yeah.
And then he worked for the state.
Yeah, he worked for the
Later
state.
years in life, he worked for the state.
What did he do?
State House. He was like an investigator
Yeah. Mhm.
in the taxation
Oh, so
department.
he took his police work and turned it into state
Because, you
state
know,
work.
like I say, when he was policeman, you know, we saw a lot of Portuguese coming to the United States. And he said, well, I'm going to take a chance myself. So we quit from the police department and joined us when he came to the United States. Then, like I say, went to Africa, learned the English language, you know, and we was here quite a while. Then when he come back here, you know, the language was only, those days, it was only Portuguese. They know the English. So anytime
He helped the immigrants.
Did they say anything about the voyage coming?
I don't think so. I didn't
So
think-
your mother came here by herself. He came first and she came second. And she never said to you what it was like coming?
No, I didn't say much about it.
And where, did your father already have a place to live when she came?
Yeah. Mhm.
An apartment or?
The apartment.
So they never lived in a boarding house?
No.
That's an amazing story.
Because he was comfortable, you know, with, I mean, the own way, you know, because he had, like I say, he worked in those stores and different places like that. He had a little bit of money, you know, so, you know, it was enough to live, you know.
And he was a very young man to be sort of well off.
Oh, yeah. He was, when he went to he was quite a young man. He must be about 20 or something more or less when he left the United States, I mean, Portugal.
Africa.
Yeah. And then went after.
Now, who was his first child? Who was the first boy?
The girls were before me.
First.
I'm the oldest of the boys, and the girls were older than me.
Do you know what years your sisters were born?
One of them was a school teacher in Portugal, in Funchal, Madeira.
Yeah, she's the oldest. She died about 50 years ago, you know.
So you had siblings. Your sisters were born in Madeira?
Only one.
Only one.
Only one.
And 5 were born here in America.
You mean, if your sister was a teacher, she was born there and then she came over here?
She
No,
never
no,
came.
no,
The
no, no,
oldest
no.
one never came. When the mother came here, she left the oldest one with the grandmother.
She must have been a very little girl.
Oh, no, I don't think so. She probably must have been about 15 or something like that.
Really?
Well, how old was she when she was a school teacher? She must have been.
Oh, well, she must, but I mean, like I say,
She went
my
to
mother,
school.
They
my
started
mother,
teaching
yeah.
school at 16.
Oh, they do? In Funchal?
Well, in the old country, and in here too, as soon as people finished high school or got into high school, they could teach.
Yeah, she was educated, well educated.
She's fine, very fine.
So they were married a good number of years before they came to America.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. So your father wanted to do it right. He went to Africa, then he came to America and called her over.
Yeah.
Was that hard for her to leave your sister behind?
No.
She was married.
The only thing is the older sister, you know, she came to the United States. So my older sister was there in Madeira. So she fell in love with one of the
Yeah, but this is before then, before she got married. This is when you came to America. Oh, God.
When his mother came to America.
When your mother came to America, and then you people were all born here in America, your sister was already an older girl, and she stayed with your grandmother. You're getting mixed up. We have to go step by step. Your father got married in Funchal, Madeira, or Portuguese, or whatever it was, and then he had that one child in Madeira. He had your older sister in Madeira. Okay, then after that, he sent for your mother, and your mother came here, and that's when you 5 children were born here in 3 months.
And do you remember the years of their birth? What was the year of your birth?
1916, and all the others were born,
A few before and a few
yeah,
after.
I think it was, they were born, I think, every 2 years, like, Gabriel was, before you, about a year and a half, and then Beatrice was about 2 years before that. I remember Beatrice telling me. She
And the
was-
boys were,
Then Manuel
2 years,
came,
2 years?
then Arthur was next, and then Eddie was next.
So there were 3 girls, 2 boys. I'm the oldest of the boys. The girls older than I am.
okay. Now, what do you remember their saying to you about adjusting to America? Did they find that difficult?
No, I never spoke about it, you know.
You said they lived on Tremont Street.
Yeah.
Was that primarily a Portuguese community?
Yeah, that's where the,
Most of the Madeira people. The Azores people lived up further near the church, and the Madeira people lived in Tremont Street, downtown Lowell, you know, that section.
Down near Beaumarchais.
Yes, he worked at Beaumarchais.
I see. So behind there were apartment buildings?
Yeah.
Was that a house your parents lived in or an apartment building?
well, I think it was an apartment. I don't remember, you know, it's been a long time ago,
Did they ever, when you were young, did you ever own a house by yourself, your parents?
you know. No, just rental.
Okay. So when you were growing up, what, did your mother work?
I never seen, no.
No, she never worked. His
So
mother
he
never
was a
worked.
good student. So in terms of class, your parents were up a rung from a lot of other people who were mill workers, and so your family was pretty comfortable. Well, you don't remember doing a
No,
lot
no,
of,
but
they
they,
were
as far
comfortable.
as I know, you know, like I said, my father had a good job, you know, he was making good money, you know, and I suppose some of the Portuguese that he was helping, he didn't ask for any money. They probably gave him some money, and they little by little save, you know. But he never asked for. He used to help them go out, most of the Portuguese there, and he never asked them for a dollar or not, anything like that. But some of them that probably figured, well, oh, you did this for me, dollar, here's $5 or $1, so you couldn't wait.
Do you remember how you heated your home? Was it difficult to do that?
And the only thing I remember is like when we were kids, see, we used to sleep in the same bed, the 3 of us, and we always say, oh, I'll sleep in the middle because they were thinking about these people, you know, the spirit and all that stuff. So we all fight to sleep in the middle.
To protect you from the spirits? You thought the spirits were bad?
Oh, indeed.
And what kind of a bed was this?
Oh, a regular bed, you know, I mean, it's not so fancy like the ones over here, but, you know, it was
It wasn't a queen size, it was a full size.
Did your sisters sleep in a separate room,
Oh, yes.
in a separate bed?
Yeah.
Or did they sleep together?
Oh, well, they're together, but not.
Oh, yeah.
Not in this, I'm asking that
Oh,
for a particular reason.
Yeah.
And what was discipline like in your house when somebody was naughty? Were you ever naughty?
Oh, you got a whip.
And who did that?
Oh, my mother.
But
My father never got justice. My mother, if we did something out of the way or something like
This
that.
is a repeating story. The Portuguese fathers were sort of calm, and the Portuguese mothers were disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Huh.
The only time my father hit me was like, used to be downtown, used to be a Portuguese club, and my father used to go there every so often. So that particular day, I went down, it was very late at night. So one of the kids was smoking, see? So he said, here's a cigarette, try it, this is good. So right there next to the club. So what happened, my father came out, I was smoking, and he looked back, you see, as soon as I saw him, I put it back. But no, that smoke was going up through my eyes. And he said, oh boy, I got home, he give me a bang.
You got a beating.
Oh,
With what?
oh, what? With his stick, whatever he could get in his hand.
I see.
That's the only time that he beat me was in that. But my mother wasn't in that. Once in a while.
How old were you?
Who?
You. How old were you when you got that punishment?
Oh, I should say about 9 years old, something like that.
Oh, just now, if you were ever angry at your mother, were you able to be rude to her?
No.
Would you say respect was a big word in your house?
Well, it was, but, sometimes they, like these Portuguese, they have a certain way, and you have to go.
That's what I'm trying to find out. What is that way?
Well, like I say, it's, you couldn't do too much out of the way, because they hand you over something like that. Or
Rules.
Rules, so, but I get along, I was quite a boy,
We won't talk about that until you left back for full show.
Oh, yeah.
Then that's another story.
Oh, yeah.
So you and your brothers were typical boys,
Oh,
but
right.
but you were still afraid of your mother and father, so you had to toe the mark.
Oh, yeah, naturally. But like I say, I didn't get too
They
many
respected their mother.
Respect. I see.
Well, it's one of those things.
And did your parents encourage you to go to school?
Oh, you went to
Oh,
school
yes.
here in America.
I was smart in school, and sometimes the snow, over there was nobody to clean up when the snow, sometimes it was 20 feet high, and we used to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And but I one day, I used to work in grammar school, sometimes I see teachers, I didn't want it. I teacher, can I go to the bathroom and all that? Okay. I did that so many times. So, one certain day, I really had to go. So I said, she said, no. Take it easy, don't get up. So, she said, oh, no, you're doing this all the time, you're doing this so many times, no. I don't trust you anymore. So what happened? When I came home from school, all the stuff was on me,
You had an accident?
He had an accident.
Yeah, an accident.
See, he was really, he was playing with the teacher.
Because I didn't go to the bathroom I really needed it, that's it. But then the teacher was so mad, because every so often, I said, can I go? And I didn't need it. But I just want to skip, At this particular day, I really had to go. Then, when I come home.
So you got more punishment at home?
Then I was so full, I stopped going home. But when I got home, the mother says, good. I said, well, we just set up. She said, good. She should hit you all because, you've been a bad boy, I said, well, what are you going to do? So she teach me because, say, you want to go every time you want to go and you don't need it, so this time you need to go, and you're not gonna go. Oh,
Don't cry wolf,
oh.
that's what that means. She probably figured he was, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you that question.
Yeah.
Because
My
then-
sister was the only one, the oldest was the only one to go.
No, the oldest one was in Madeira.
Yeah, she stayed there.
But you left here with your parents. All the kids left here with your parents.
To go to Madeira.
Right.
Then we come back.
Well, we'll go take step by step.
Well, really, we can end when, pretty much when he enters the service, because,
Well, he was already married. He was already back in this country
right,
and
but
married to me.
we're just gonna go to Madeira and back, and then you told the story after that, pretty much, I think.
Yeah. Well, he was,
You all set?
Yeah.
Manuel, did you finish high school in America?
Well, I almost did, but you know what happened, that I used to love to play soccer. See?
you know,
So
she asked you a question now about here in America.
Did you finish high school here?
no.
How many grades did you go?
Oh, about the third or fourth, something like that, not too much.
Oh, not into junior high school?
He was only 9 years old when he left.
Yeah.
Oh, so what caused you to drop out of school?
They moved.
Well, that's
The
what I
phone
wanted.
sounded- Yeah.
Your mother and father decided to go back?
Yeah, well, my father, he had a property in Madeira. See, so
Oh.
we decided to bring the whole family to Madeira. So over there, he had a house there. And the house was rented to his father. So he told the father, he says, look, we're gonna rent this, my house. But when we decided to come back, we went to back. What did I say? The father said, sure. So we had the whole family went back there, and we had a lot of things for our house. So when he get in there, the father didn't want to leave. So my father was upset. He went to a place for us, and he was upset, and he came back to the United States by himself. He left the family there, So about 3 or 4 years later, Carl sent for me, because I was the oldest of the boys, to come back to the United States. So the rest of the family stayed there. And,
For the rest of the time? You
no,
were
no,
the only one?
afterwards they come back, come later than that, So
But your mother stayed in Madeira?
Yes, my mother said, I was the only one that came back from Madeira to come back to the United States. The rest of the family stayed there. Then after a year back, after that, then they came back to the United States.
Your brothers and sisters, but your mother stayed there?
No, she came too with them,
Oh.
yeah. So,
And then when did your and how old were you when you returned here?
I was 19.
But you had missed school.
He went to school in Funchal.
Yeah.
Oh.
He went to school in Funchal.
I went to school in Puchal. Then, like I was saying about this, the second thing is that I was a smart boy, if I say so, and I wouldn't, one of the best. But what happened, I didn't finish my course because I used to go to the field and play soccer, and my mother never knew that I missed the school to play soccer. See? I used to come at the right time that I usually come home from school. See? So she never knew anything. Too bad, I like that. I was a boy.
So you didn't find out, so she never found that out until it was too late?
I don't think she ever
No,
found
I don't
out.
think she found out yet. Yeah, at all.
Because he came back here to America
Yeah, come back,
with his father.
But when you came back here, you didn't try to go to school again and get a...
Yeah, I went to school, yeah.
Oh, and did you get a diploma?
No. Like I said, I didn't have a chance to, in Portugal and over here, the same thing. I used to like to play soccer,
He was a soccer player.
And so I had
He
a
played
course.
soccer all his life.
My course was about 4 years, more or less. But I even went around 2 years because the rest of the years I skipped, So I played soccer. But like I said, my mother never knew about it.
So when you came back here, you were approximately 18. And when did you enter the service?
Oh, married her,
Oh, God. He entered the service.
So when you met Wilhelmina, you were living
1944.
alone in Lowell with your father?
yeah.
1944.
Okay. So, then you met Wilhelmina and got married and entered the service.
Wilhelmina, he never married Wilhelmina.
I mean Sally.
Oh, my
Unless
God.
it's something we don't
He
know.
married Sally.
Sally, I'm still back where I was.
Yeah,
Okay.
he married Sally in 1939, and then he went into the service in 1944.
So you were already older and wiser. Did you have a job when you
Oh, yeah,
were?
oh, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to figure out about your going to Madeira and coming back. You were interested in sports. What did you do for work?
I didn't have no job then. Not, then
When you
after-
got married, you didn't
well,
have a job?
after I get married, I work in the mills, you know.
And what did you do before? You didn't have any job before you got married?
Yes, you worked at the Waldorf. Your father
Oh,
got,
yeah,
got
yeah,
you
Waldorf,
a job at the
Waldorf.
Waldorf.
Well,
Yeah, Waldorf is a restaurant, you know.
oh,
I used to clean the tables and all that, you know.
I see.
And then he went to work at the Newmarket Manufacturing.
And the
That
soup
when
mill. and
we
the
got
soup mill.
married, that's where he was working.
I worked in the both mills, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then did you join the service because you wanted to be in the service or because they
Oh, I was
drafted
drafted, oh, yeah.
you? I
Oh,
see.
yeah.
And he became sergeant.
I get, sent him out as a sergeant.
He wasn't dumb, but he was lazy because he was playing soccer all the time.
Well, you know, we wouldn't call that lazy. We'd put him in a soccer camp today.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good news.
And then he went to work at the Merrimack Manufacturing, and after that he worked at Canada Dry during the time we were married.
Okay. I'm going to end this because you've told me most of that, and that will be a combination. And I want to be sure I get you Glenda in there, and if I have any time after that, then I'll put Manuel back on here.
Right.